Hi. For a long time, I've battled with depression and negative thought in my life, and it feels like a burden, and I am now at the point where I take medication because I suspect there's a biological depression. But what I wanted to know was, where does the burden of negative thought arise? Why does that come up in the mind? What purpose does it serve?
It is so wonderful that you have asked the perfect beginning question.
Good.
We'll give you a little background. You know you're physical. That's not too hard to figure out. But most of you think in terms of being dead or alive. As you acknowledge that there is not death, that there is only life, then it is not hard to follow the thought that your inner being exists simultaneously. Very often, even after much conversation with Abraham, someone will say to us, Abraham, why have you chosen not to be physical? If you think physical experience is so wonderful, why aren't you down here having it with us? And we say, we are experiencing physicalness through you. We are your non-physical counterpart. You're getting the point? When you understand that every physical being that you see has a non-physical counterpart, then and only then can you begin to understand what emotion is. Because emotion, whether you call it positive or negative, is communication from your inner being to help you upon that path of harmony that we talked about, of freedom and growth and joy being in balance. Technically, actually, really, there are only two emotions. One feels good and one feels bad. But you call them all sorts of different things depending upon the circumstance and events. You've come to pigeonholing them or labeling them. When you are feeling a negative emotion, what it is your inner being saying to you that the current thought, word, or action is not in harmony with another intent that you have. It is simply your inner being's expression to you to let you know two things. The first thing is this is an important issue. Otherwise, you'd be feeling nothing. If someone you did not know called you on the telephone and said, hello, I'm calling to tell you I will never talk to you again, you would say, who cares? But if someone very important, then that negative feeling would be telling you that this is an important issue, you see. Secondly, it is telling you that while it is very important, you are currently focused upon the lack of what you want. You're getting the point? Every time you are feeling negative emotion, it is your inner being saying to you something very important to you are currently perceiving as being without. And it usually boils down to freedom or growth. But we would say for you primarily, it is your absolute quest for freedom. And you perceive yourself sometimes, often, as not being free. Now what we are wanting to tell you, and this is particularly important to you, while all beings who come forth into these physical bodies have in common the desire, the intent for freedom and growth and joy, you do not all come forth with the same degree of intensity about it. You have lived thousands of lifetimes, and through that living of life, you have come to know freedom. You have come to know the glory of growth and freedom and joy. And so as you come into an experience where you perceive yourself not to be free, it sends you crazy. You cannot bear it, you see. Even though it is not really happening, your perspective of it, the thought that you are giving toward it, is evoking a response from your inner being that says, wait, friend, you're giving thought in opposition to what you are really wanting. That is the place for you to stop and say, well, then what do I want? And as you acknowledge that what you really seek is freedom, and then you bask in that thought for a moment, acknowledging that technically, in every sense of the word, you are free. Friends, how much freer can you be? Every thought you think affects your experience. That is freedom, you see. What we are very much wanting to impart to all of you is that you could not be more free. You are so free that your thought and feeling brings into your experience. And so what you have been experiencing is some negative emotion that has come forth as communication from your inner being, telling you that you are in that moment. For the emotion always comes forth in the moment. Talk about a glorious guidance system. It lets you know moment by moment how you're doing. As you are receiving the non-physical energy of this universe, do you know you're receiving it? We do, because the doctor has not pronounced you dead. As you are receiving the non-physical energy of the universe, the way you contour it on your behalf is the way you think. As you understand your electricity and you plug your appliances in to utilize it toward the end that you seek, With this non-physical energy or current, the way you contour it toward an ending place is by contouring it with thought, you see. And so as you give thought and you think about it, you can trace it back even better than we can. If you will think about the beginning of those cycles of depression, almost always you can put your finger right upon what triggered it. But then what happens, because you did not understand what emotion was, and you did not know how to pivot off of it, the law of attraction begins to work for you, you see. The more that you feel, the more that you feel, the more that you feel, until, because you are such a great wanter, you go right to the depths of despair. Certainly it is biological, because everything about you is. And as your inner being is offering a block of thought for communication, the way the emotion works is by sending a signal that causes your body to do biological things that gives you a feeling response, you see. Your guidance system has been established by you and by your inner being as a feeling communication, because you can't talk and listen at the same time. You cannot transmit and receive a thought at the same time, but you can think or speak or do and receive a feeling at the same time to let you know the appropriateness by your standards. Not the appropriateness in terms of some great law in the sky. The appropriateness in terms of the balance of intentions that you hold, you see. As we're talking further today, you will get a very clear understanding of this process of pivoting. Good. What more?
Right here.
Yes, that started to answer some of my question, but how, when you're into that negative thought, how do you get off it?
Good. It isn't easy, is it? You're very good at it. Sometimes you get so much energy going in that direction that no one, no matter how positive they are, can even drag you off of it. Instead, you drag them down with you. It is what we call momentum. When you are utilizing the non-physical energy and you have allowed it to remain for a period of time, it becomes very powerful. What usually saves you is that sooner or later you go to sleep. And that blocks the cycle, and when you awaken you feel better until you remember how bad you felt the night before, and then you start it all over again. Your question is the perfect one. What do I do about it? What happens? Let us begin here. Are you able to accept, indeed you are, that there is an inner part of you that exists? We call it your inner being. We think it is very descriptive of it. And so as you understand that your inner being exists, someone said, Abraham, what star planet are you from? And we said, we're not from a star planet. And they said, well, you must not be important then. And then they went on to say, in fact, we're not even sure you exist. If you don't have some star planet to hang your hat on, then you may not exist at all. And we said, we feel like we exist. You may perceive us as not important if we are not from a place, but place denotes physical. And as we are currently focused from non-physical, there is no place that you can attach us to. We exist in state of being, feeling, being. And that is why we refer to your inner being as inner being or inner feeling, you see. Now, what happens with most of you is that you believe so much in action. You're giving credit to action. You think action is what is making the difference in your life. If you're not out there doing, then you don't expect anything wonderful to happen. And what we're wanting you to understand is it is not the doing that is making the difference. It is the way you think and feel that is attracting into your experience. But so here you are as a physical being, having an experience where you're having some sort of physical interchange or doing, and something happens and you feel rotten. The reason that most of you have such a difficult time getting off of that is because you're trying to fix it out here where it is broken. In other words, you're trying to give so much more attention to what is wrong because you believe that in giving attention to what is wrong, you will be able to make it right. But the law does not allow that. You cannot have a miserable journey on the way to a happy ending. It defies law. In order for you to change the law of attraction and begin getting more what you are wanting, which is to feel good, you must start at the inside, where most are creating from the outside in or backwards. We are encouraging that you come from the inside out. Have you ever seen a gymnast on a balance beam? If he gets out of balance, he does not try to somersault himself back into balance, for he would end up on the floor, break his neck, or whatever. Instead, he stops, draws back, regains his balance, and then proceeds. And that is really what pivoting is. It is recognizing that what you're doing, by the way you feel, it's very clear, is not in harmony with what you want. And so you stop, and if you will stop in the moment of the feeling, that is the time when you can most accurately access or assess what it is you do want. You never know more clearly what you do want than when you're living what you don't want. Isn't that true? Isn't that when you know you want health when you're sick? Isn't that when you most know you want more money when there isn't enough? And so as you're in this position of lack of what you do want, that is the time for you to say, wait a minute, my inner being is giving me negative emotion. That means this is important. Thank you for the signal, inner being, you might say. And it also means that I'm focused in opposite direction of what I really want. So what is it that I want? And the majority of the time, it will come back to three issues, usually the issue of freedom, sometimes the issue of growth, sometimes the issue of joy. But it is usually freedom that you feel is being. And so if you will stop and come inside, now this is the process. Stop and say, I want to feel free. I want to feel free. You're not out there trying to fix it. You're just acknowledging that you want to feel free. You will begin to receive stimulation of thought that helps you remember that under any and all conditions you absolutely are free, that you've never been anything other than free. And you will begin to feel better in the moment. We're watching our friend Esther. She came home from a trip, and she was feeling very much overwhelmed. Too much to do, she thought. Mailbox was overflowing. The voice mailbox was overflowing. The suitcases and bags were all around. And as she sat in the muddle, she said, Abraham, what should I do? And we said, there you are, acting like a physical being, always trying to figure out what to do. How do you want to feel? She said, I want to feel free and happy. And I don't feel free and happy when I have too much to do. We said, there you are, acting like a physical being, telling us what you don't want when we've asked you what you do want. She laughed and said, I want to feel free and happy. We said, ponder that for a moment. And so she closed her eyes and envisioned sitting on the front porch, sipping some tea, talking to her mate, watching the squirrels, and right away she felt free and happy. She said, now what? We said, now what do you want to have? She said, I want to have a clean and efficient, organized home and office. And we said, ponder that, friend. Do not jump right into action. Wait until you are inspired. From your base of feeling good, you will reach out to the inspiration that will lead you to that which you seek. And so within a couple of days, the thoughts began to come. I can move this over here, I can move this over here, I can delegate this, I can eliminate this. Her mate noticed that she was not acting out of drudgery, as she sometimes had done, but she was bounding from place to place, inspired by these ideas that were coming, you see. Rather than trying to fix it from negative perspective, which never works, because law of attraction just attracts more negative, she was now being inspired because she had achieved her place of balance before. You're getting it? And so the way you get away from a negative feeling is by acknowledging that it is a good thing that you have it. Don't beat up on yourself, oh, I shouldn't be feeling this way. Instead, acknowledge how valuable it is that you have been alerted to the fact that there is something that is out of harmony. And then you consciously give thought to what it is you think you would like to feel, which will inspire your ideas of what you're wanting to have, which will then lead you to action. And we encourage you never to take action without that inspiration, because that action will be futile. It is action that is usually contradictory to what you're really wanting, you see. Some say, Abraham, you teach laziness. You teach us to lay around and wait to be inspired. What if I'm never inspired? I say, you cannot avoid being inspired when you're in that place of positive emotion. When you get in that place of positive, all good things come to you. Just as you remain in that place of negative, all bad things come to you. Do you know that without exception, the deterioration of your physical apparatus is because you have allowed negative emotion? Oh, we could give you long lists of reasons not to feel negative, but you have asked the best question, how do I keep from feeling it? And our answer is you don't keep from feeling it because it is part of your guidance system. The negative part is important as the positive part, but what your goal is, once feeling it, to get feeling good as fast as you can. And if your medication helps, that is wonderful. Soon you will find you will not need it at all.